Good evening and welcome to the regular board meeting of the school boards, the St. Peter School Board. My name is Drew Dixon. I'm the vice chair. Our board chair is out this evening. Be great to have him back, but hey, everyone needs a sick day. I get it. Ahead of time, I apologize for my sickly voice that I've been dealing with for like 3 weeks, so I'll try to speak up, but I'm a little hoarse, a little shaky. It is Monday, May 16th. We're here in the governor's room, 6:32. I'd like to call the meeting to order. And let's start with the Pledge of Allegiance, please.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I will consider a motion to adopt the agenda.
So move.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. If there is an item on the agenda that you would like to speak to, that's fine. Please get your name over to Sarah, and we will find time to hear your comments. We will accept a motion to approve the consent agenda items en masse if we'd like, or we could read them individually if we need to, if there's a particular item that we need to call out. Willing to do that as well, or just take them as a whole.
I move that we approve the consent agenda items.
Second.
Thank you.
If possible, I'd like to just recognize publicly, we have 2 graduates from the Oshawa Learning Academy. Luis Carrasco and Dustin Hutchins have met their graduation requirements, so we are very proud of them.
Thank you.
Very good. Thank you. Oh, yes, we're here in the agenda. Yep, very good. Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Excellent, thank you. Moving right along. All right, student spotlight, one of our personal favorite parts of the evening.
I'll bring my own chair, but you ladies can I probably don't even need to be able to introduce these guys, but, well, I am really excited and happy that these guys gave up the most beautiful night of the year so far to attend the board meeting. I'm sure they'll be staying for the
For the whole thing.
the whole
Oh, yeah. Riveting.
It is riveting. We've got Liliana Deming here, Caitlin Henry, and Ellie Johnson, and they are members of our Advanced Culinary Arts program, which means they're in year 2, or course number 2 of that culinary pathway. And they do the most fun final project in that class. I wish we had pictures for you. If I remember when I get back to my computer, I'll share them out with you guys. But they put together a restaurant, do all of the background work from start to finish, and then some of us are fortunate enough to dine in their restaurants. So I got an opportunity to eat at 2 of the restaurants, and it's how we do things. We eat like that all the time. So I'll let you guys talk about kind of the start to finish project and what you thought of it.
Okay. So we first started off with like restaurants. So we each made our own presentation of like what restaurants we like and like what food and all that stuff. And then
kind of like a brainstorm board, kind of. And then we shared it with the class so we could kind of get an idea of like what everyone's different likes and dislikes were. And then we grouped off into groups of like, was it 3 or 4 roughly, to like decide on our restaurants kind of based on what we liked.
And then from there we made like recipe sheets and like we went through and crossed them off of which ones we didn't think would fit, and then we came up with a theme. So Caitlin and I were in a group together and our theme was a diner. So we just came up with all these recipes that we thought would be good, and then we got to test out 2 from a drink section, an appetizer, a main meal, and dessert. And so then we decided between those. And then
And then we kind of, after we figured out our recipes, kind of what we wanted to do, we spent a lot of time like developing our like atmosphere of our restaurant. So we sat down with our group and we picked out, okay, what do we want our decorations to be? What do we want the inside of our little restaurant, which ended up being one of the conference rooms in the school. But we got to decide like kind of what we wanted it to look like, how to bring the recipes we decided, and like the idea of our restaurant, like everything together to like tie everything in. And then we got to, we spent 2 days testing recipes, and then we got to the week of like actually presenting or like making our projects. So each group got 1 day for prep, to prep any food and to decorate, and then we had a service day. So we invited everybody in, and we got to serve them like an actual restaurant. So we had servers, we had bussers, we had a head chef, we had pastry chefs. Everyone kind of had a different role, and so it was basically like a mini pop-up restaurant within the school. So, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
awesome.
And we used props from the theater, so like for our diner, there's not much that we had at home. And so we found like this small jukebox that we had, and then we played like 50s music, and then our servers had poodle skirts on. So it just like really made it like tie together, so.
What were all the themes?
Well, they had a diner. We have one that is serving tomorrow. That's our last restaurant. They're kind of like a sports bar theme. There was one that was like garden themed, so they had like really fresh foods. And then mine was like a bohemian lunch type of theme, so it was like really bright and lots of plants and all that kind of stuff. So
Tomorrow's must be the group that came and asked if they could have a beer light and.
yeah,
So as long as you can't wear the t-shirts, probably
yeah,
neon
that's the
sign.
The world.
The other thing that's kind of cool about it too, the project-based learning. I know that they design their own menus, and on there, at least we didn't have to pay, but on there they had broken down exactly how much that meal would normally cost in a restaurant, which is
Yeah, we had to go through, and we just looked up all the prices on the Hy-Vee website, but we went through and like did the cost calculations for every single recipe and broke it down, like how much mustard am I using and how much of the bottle am I using, so it's going to be 12 cents, or like we had to break everything down to create our recipe calculation and then figure out how much we would like up the price based on like making a profit off of it. So yeah, we had tons of those sheets to do, but then we put it on our menu, and that was that.
How long did it take from introduction of the project to tomorrow, I suppose?
Oh gosh, I don't even remember when we started. We've kind of been thinking about it the entire semester, kind of had it in the back of our heads. I don't remember exactly when we started, but it's been a good like 3 weeks maybe, a little bit more than that almost. So yeah, there's a lot of time that we've put into them, but they all so far, I don't know about the bar yet because they haven't gone, but everyone so far has that really like a lot of success with their restaurants. So
I'm sorry.
Go ahead. Well, for
During
each of
COVID,
you.
So the last time that we were able to do this was 2019, and then COVID year, Ms. Blue had the class do meal kits, which was a great idea, and they were themed as well. But I'm really glad you guys decided to do the restaurants again. It's also great marketing for the class because kids can see us and see the food being carted over. And
we've had so many people just stop and watch what we were doing.
Yeah.
So for each of you, which part of this did you like the best? Because it sounds like there was a whole lot in it.
My favorite day was our service days, because then you really got to see everything put together and like your final product and like the work you put in, so, yeah.
I liked the part where we just decorated the room and like everyone works together and puts in all their effort.
Uh-huh.
I kind of liked in our groups, each of our members of our group had a main role. There was back of house, front of house, and then like a marketing person. And so I was put in the front of house position, so I got to like interact with the people who actually ate at our restaurant, which I thought was really cool because you kind of got to see everything like come together and like your final product. So I thought that was my favorite part of it.
So I assume you got some customer feedback, right? But how'd you get a chance to tell someone what you learned? Like what sort of feedback did you get about the process, and how did you kind of talk that through and think it through? Like what you learned from it all?
I don't know. I think we've all just kind of, like, we've been using all of the skills that we've gathered throughout the whole year, and then we've just kind of been, I've been telling like literally everybody about it because I've been so excited, and I know that we kind of talked to the people after we finished our restaurant and they finished eating. We got like verbal feedback as well as a feedback card, and so we got to kind of explain to them kind of our process and that kind of stuff. And a lot of the teachers have been hearing about it too, which was a lot of our guests were teachers. But so we've kind of just been telling everybody kind of about it. But
And there were 5 restaurants that were done, or less, or more?
we had 4.
4.
Yeah.
And did those restaurants, did they share personnel from within the class, or was?
Yeah, so each group, like who was the creator of the restaurant, each main member had a job, and then all of us, rest of the people in the class had other jobs as well. So there was the main front of house, back of house, and marketing were kind of like the people who created the group, and then the rest of us would either be servers or bussers or help make the food. So we were all kind of, like, it was the one group's like restaurant, but we were all like helping with the restaurant. So it was kind of a team effort within the class.
And then we actually like interviewed for a position. So for each, so you kind of like picked what position you wanted, and then you went around to each group, and you actually did like a little interview. So that's fun.
We had to write out sheets of like what we wanted to do and like what our skills were and all that kind of stuff. So
Cool.
applications. Why could I not think of that word?
Yeah. Very cool.
Nice.
Any other questions?
When do your restaurants open in St. Peter so that we can?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I wish. We had actually a couple people say like, these restaurants are so cool, like you guys should do something, but I don't know. I think it would be really fun to open a restaurant, but.
Nice job.
We look
Good
forward
job.
to it.
Absolutely.
Thank you for coming and
Thank
sharing.
you.
Great
Good job.
No student council report tonight. Our student council representatives are involved in a concert tonight. It's a very busy time of the year, and there's activities like every night, it seems. So we understand. Off to our action items this evening. We've got 4 action items, one of which is a resolution. We'll get to that. First off, we're going to consider the policies for a single reading due to immaterial changes. Immaterial.
Immaterial. Yeah.
Immaterial changes.
Yeah, there's a typo there. Should be immaterial, not immaterial. So when we have a policy change that doesn't really change the process or procedures of that policy, it's just changing basically the numbering on these, you can make that change in one reading. And so these 8 policies are policies that we currently have, and the language is just about the same as it was. And so there they are. I don't know if anyone else has anything they want to add to that.
So it's just number change?
Yeah.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve those policies, how many are there, did you say, 9?
8.
8 policies. Should I read the numbers, or are we good with just referring to that addendum?
I'm fine if you just refer to the
Okay, then that's what I'm gonna do.
packet.
So I'll make that motion to approve the 8 policies as listed in the addendum.
Very good. Do we have a second?
Second.
I should ask if we have any other discussion before we go to a vote. Anything else? Okay, very good. All those in favor?
Aye.
And those opposed? Very good. Consideration for policy changes for immaterial changes is passed, right? Okay, more policy. So we're going to consider the second reading of the revisions to the policy manual. Second reading.
There are 20 policies listed in here for the second reading. There are 13 deletions of current policy, which means 7 of these are brand new to us. And we've presented these for first reading. There weren't any changes that were brought forward to the committee, and so we've brought them for a second reading.
Any comments from the policy committee or highlights that we need to?
There was no comment. We went through them again. There was no feedback from anyone else and brought them forward.
Love it. All right, well, we consider a motion to approve.
So moved.
In a second?
Second.
Assuming no further comments?
Oh
All
my.
those in,
So rude.
all those in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Thank you. That second reading passes.
I will say the policy committee has been very busy.
Yeah, it's a lot.
You've been very busy.
Yeah.
We just review and give our thoughts.
Touche.
And we're also lucky because so much of it is just changing the number to
Yeah,
match.
for sure.
Next is to consider the revisions for the fiscal year 22 budget. Mr. Regner is here to explain it all.
Before he begins, I have to say that Mr. Regner has also been extremely busy. And this year, more so than any other year, has been incredibly difficult to manage all the changes, all the COVID fundings, the budget applications, making budgets for every single one of those categories, changing enrollments, changing expenditures, and so many kudos go to Mr. Regner for the hours and hours and hours it has taken to develop what he's about to present to you.
Yeah, and that being said, it's probably been the most complicated and probably the least sure I am of the funding sources, because we'll get into this a little bit. I always refer to it as there's a lot of balls in the air, and they're not all settled, and they're not, it's our best estimate of where it's going to go here, and it's I guess I'll preface it. The budget is extremely tight, and revenues are under expenditures. It's kind of interesting today. I always read the MSABA clippings, which they have articles from around the state on education. And the St. Paul Pioneer Press had an article on St. Paul's budget, and the Tribune had an article on Minneapolis's budget, and it's just a common theme all along with in all the different things, and we'll go through some of them here. But I don't think we're alone, and I know Bill and some of the rest of you are involved with the kind of the state and those type of things going on. There may be some additional funding this year, next year. We don't know where the state legislature's at. It would sure help if they could close some of the gaps. There's been a lot of talk on special ed funding and things, but that's still all things up in the air too. But that being said, we went over this fairly thoroughly at the business committee meeting last week. I'll try and give a shorter presentation, but if you have any questions, make sure you ask. There's basically it's kind of all summarized down into 2 pages. For those that have been here a while, the top page is kind of a summary of all funds, and then the second page is kind of a best shot estimate or snapshot of the 22, basically what we call the unassigned fund, which is our funds 1, 3, and 22. So maybe the easiest way to start is if we kind of just want to start on the bottom of the first page, because those are quicker. The trust fund is basically our 2 scholarship funds. We get interest, income, and revenue, and we pay out a couple scholarships, the Annexted and the Mauer. That's line 69. Line 65 is a debt redemption fund. That's pretty simple. The bond that was passed, or for the new school and the other improvements at the time, basically the revenue that comes in, and it fairly well matches the expenditures each year. Some years it's up a little bit, some years it's down a little bit, depending upon the tax collections and things, but that pretty well balances out. Line 61, 62, and 63, that kind of has to do, line 61 is the capital Projects Fund. If you remember, probably 12, 13 years ago, the school district passed the Capital Projects Fund for 10 years, and we got some extra money for basically capital projects. There was $4,000 left in it. The levy expired or rolled off a couple years ago, so we're gonna spend the rest of the money this year. That's line basically 61. Line 62 is the money that's actually been left from the school bond referendum. That's been kind of, the majority of it was spent for the new high school and the improvements to the other schools. There's, as you remember, there's been a couple ongoing projects. The last of it here is the restrooms that were done at CSP, which we just paid for this year. So I'm very happy to be closing that fund out after 5 years and $60 million or whatever it's been. So hopefully we'll have that closed out on June 30th. So the next one, line 58, the community service. We've talked about that at length over the past. That one, the pandemic took the biggest hit in probably as far as, the revenue just dropped, the project stopped, and then also ComEd really consists of, our community projects and plus our ECFE classes and our school readiness classes. Besides that, we lost a lot of scholarship funding, probably low six figures in the ECFE department, and it hasn't recovered from those issues. So that one has been negative the last couple of years, and it's probably projected when we come back in June will be negative again next year. The bright light is line 55, the food service fund. That one we have very ample funds in, and we have to spend it if we're over 3 months of balance. Basically, those last couple of years when the meals have been paid for, that we've gotten more money than what we charged, and everybody paid, and it's, and everybody, if it was free, everybody ate at school, so the number of meals have been up, so it's projecting a good balance. One thing that's not in there yet, and not in the general fund when we get there, is we can allocate some funds from the food service, or from the general fund costs, such as utilities, electricity, some supervision staff. And that's not always well known until we get the final numbers in for the year. So the numbers probably will go down a little bit. The expenses will go up for food service, and they'll go down for the regular funds when we get all said and done here. But the food service is gonna finish a good deal in the black. So we did do some improvements to try and spend some of the money last year on things that were needed. A couple dishwashers went in, and I don't want to get back into it, but the decision to it did provide some additional funds here to go back to the self-op, which that played into it too. So if we want to start kind of just on the bottom up from line 40 is the general fund money. Line 37 is miscellaneous scholarships, which we don't really have money or a trust document controlling it, but people have given funds, and you'll see in a couple weeks here when they give them out at the award ceremonies and things, that's where those funds come. They differ from the trust number 7, and we have actual documents there that control it and tell us how to do that. The concession fund, basically that is the concessions. It did start off a little negative. It went negative last year because we didn't have any concessions and we still had some expenses. So this year, it probably will break even, make a little bit of money. Lines 30 through 33 are basically the student activity funds at the 4 schools. The students' money, and it pretty much each year, hopefully the revenue equals the expenses and they zero out. So we just kind of project whatever revenue is, and the expenditures are about the same. So what they raise, they spend. We had to separate that out a couple of years ago, if you remember, from the unassigned funds, because I think there were schools that were using that in their unassigned balances, and so it's separate money from the unassigned funds now. Lines basically 16 or 12 through 28 are different assigned funds. They're part of the general fund, but they're assigned, or they're like inventory things that are not in the unassigned balance that we typically talk about. They're for different items. I won't go through them line by line, but we'll get back into a couple of them. especially the big one, line 21, assigned for operating new high school. If you remember, when the high school was built, we put some money away for the operation of that because we didn't know what the costs were going to be and everything was going to go up. Enrollment had increased those years, and I think we ramped up the expenses, so we never really tapped into that money until this year, and we'll get into that. Line 223, or line 20 right above it too, I'll talk a little bit about the sign for bond and CSP. That is basically money that we had put away to pay for the balance of the restroom because it cost a little bit more than the money that was left in the bond fund. And so we transfer that out back to the unassigned fund because those expenses are there. Kind of if we go up to line 10, which is kind of the most activity and the most questions. We started the year with a fund balance of 5.4 million. If you remember last year, or FY21 that ended, June of 21, we actually ended up going up in the fund balance about $600,000. We took some money, some COVID funds last year. COVID expenses were probably down a little bit because of, the school not being in session all the time and various reasons. So, and we had planned to tap into the 1.6 million last year, but, when we're able, the COVID funds, and we'll get into that a little bit more too later, there's like 7 or 8 ones that you'll see on the second page, and they all have a little bit different requirements for what you can spend it for and what you can document it. So when we've been able to use it for the normal expenses, we have expensed it to that fund, so we can receive the funds and don't lose it. There is a couple that we may have trouble finding the correct expenses for, but I think we're going to be pretty close on that. So that being said, we went up last year. This year we are projected, as you can see in columns D and E, that the expenditures are over the revenue by a considerable amount. And we'll get into some of those reasons here in a little bit. We're going to try and offset some of that by the $223,000 transfer is because the expenses for the restroom are in the expenditures there, so that kind of balances out. And then we're going to transfer about half of the money we had put away, and that maintains us the 4.8 million at about our 60-day fund balance. So that's kind of a quick overview of all the different funds. If you want to go to page 2, it's kind of more the rollout of the different expenditures and really why the revenue has decreased somewhat and the expenditures have increased. The biggest causes probably, or there's a couple things that were a little bit unique this year. The restroom and also the changes at the Hoffman Center required us to add additional staff and add additional expenses, and we're probably up $230,000 to $250,000 in expenses due to that. And most of those students are special education, and with the special education tuition billing system, it takes us a couple of years to recover that funding. So we'll get, in a couple of years, when that all gets through the system, we should get, and we're working on trying to get everything put in right out there because it is a big change. We should get some of those funds back, but there's no way we can put them in this year. The $220,000 for the CSP bathroom, and then also the allocations, which probably will come to a couple $100,000, which we can allocate out to these other funds, will help decrease some of that cost. Some of the reasons for the change this year, there's probably been 5 or 6 other ones. The biggest probably being the drop in enrollment of the students. We probably lost 90 to 100 ADMs from budget, which simply on the formula is close to 700,000. Plus, you lose the referendum money and you lose a bunch of things. So you're probably, when all said and done, maybe 800,000, 900,000, maybe closer to $1 million from the loss of enrollment. Also, inflation. You guys all pay your utility bills too, and the gas pump, and that has obviously hit hard. Transportation, we added the extra route, and we have, we pay extra for the diesel when it gets above a certain route, a certain rate. So that also, settlements, just general inflation in labor is also a cause of it. So that's really the big side on the expense side and the one on the revenue.
Could you mention the compensatory?
Oh, yeah, good. Compensatory, the good news about the free lunches is our food service program. The bad news is we get based compensatory income based upon our free and reduced rate. And typically it always ran in 35% of our students qualified for the free and reduced program. And we tried to get everybody to fill the forms out as much as we could, but we were down. Everybody in the state is down because a lot of people don't fill out the forms because there was no benefit to them. We probably lost 200, I think it was 230,000 because of that also. They had held us harmless the year before, but this year we're down that. I've read other the larger school districts are down millions. So that's maybe part of what's in the state budget, the surplus, because that had all been budgeted. So that's why hopefully we'll get it back somewhere else. But that was a big revenue loss also. As you can see on the second sheet there too, we have there's 7 or 8 COVID, they separated them out by different finance codes, and that's how I tried to put them in here. So we are taking in a bunch of COVID funds to try and offset some of the negative impacts. We did move ahead some money we had planned to use next year, originally because of the shortfall. We still have about $1 million to $1.2 million in COVID funds besides this here. The one thing I'm unsure about is if we'll have all this in revenue next year or this year because of the different qualifications that it takes for that. If not, most of the money, there's one program, the testing program, that ends this year, but we can roll over most of those funds to next year if we can't take them this year. There's a lot of funds in here. The things that were big with the COVID were your mental health issues, summer school, kind of recovery, those type of things. Some of that I don't know if we'll end up putting in FY '22 or '23 until we actually have the expenses. So that's kind of a little bit of a wild card, as is some of the transportation costs and stuff up in the air yet on that. We'll do, come next month, we'll have the budget for FY '23. A couple good things there is we'll get the additional $450,000 of revenue from the referendum that was passed in November. And then, we take a look at where our enrollment is. We do have a smaller senior class graduating this year than, I don't know exactly, maybe Mrs. Engeldinger can help us out with that later. But it's 140 to 150, which is smaller than it's been the last couple of years. So we don't lose those students. And right now, our kindergarten numbers, I think, look promising, but that's to be determined yet too. And then if some of the other students that left come back here next year. So I guess that's kind of where, and the other big wild card yet too is if the state does provide any additional funding from, they're debating that now. I know that, like I said, last Monday, I think, was big on there's a group up there for the special education, funding gap. I think we're just short of $2 million, so that if there's anything coming there, that would really help. So if you know any legislatures, put in a good word for us on that. So otherwise, I that's all I kind of had prepared. I don't know if Bill's got anything else, but this is obviously as tight as it's ever been since I've been here, and I've said, school finance, it kind of gets down to enrollment. This is the first year in 10 years we've dropped that I've been here. I think one year we might have been pretty steady, but that's that and inflation and a couple other just things that were, the Hoffman Center, they all kind of hit this year. So.
Can I ask you a question?
Yep.
I'm not going to pretend like I actually know everything that's going on this sheet, but I pick out pieces that I kind of understand. I just wanted to clarify for the concession fund, when you said like that we kind of negative, I'm assuming that means like that's the school's position, but like our booster club then, because you give the booster club a portion. So
Right.
when people hear like our concession lost money, it went to the booster club.
Right.
Okay, I
that's-
just wanted to make sure that I was understanding correctly.
Right.
'Cause I
In
don't-
in the expenses there, basically, and I can't remember the expense, the percent offhand. Typically, the Booster Club staffs the concession stand, and they get X percent of the things. So it kind of goes around a big
Yeah.
circle.
No,
So,
I just
that's-
wanted to
that's a
make
good
sure.
point, yeah.
And then for the community service, those scholarships, and refresh my memory on that, that's just, we didn't really lose them from anything we did, they just kind of changed how they do their funding for those scholarships, for those early childhood scholarships?
Yes, no,
So
yeah,
it wasn't, like, we don't, okay.
No, I think they made them open, and maybe Steve can help a little more on that, but yeah, we used to qualify for, like I said, $100,000 worth of them, and we don't get any anymore. It's, the state changed things, so.
All right.
They're focusing those funds to more city areas, and so I'd say we just have not received as much. We did receive about $110,000, $120,000 at one point. This year we've received one scholarship to the tune of about $5,000. So
Yikes.
it's unfortunate, and my whole universal preschool, we
Yeah.
want kids to be ready. We need to have a funding source. So that it's very unfortunate.
That's it, that's all I got.
Yes, sir.
As a member of the business committee, I will go with Bill and say, Tim, this is a lot of work. And I know that we've sat in meetings, numerous meetings about the budget. And I'll channel former members, Carl Drud and Meeks, who said, it's always good to have a fund balance for a rainy day, and it's raining. That I think they've said that often. And so we just need to keep our finger on it. So I appreciate all your work.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. Like, COVID has left a wide wake, which we see here. We'll be dealing with it for who knows how long. Other issues are, lack of enrollment. Still maybe partially COVID involved, but just like you said, spinning plates and balls in the air, and thank you for staying on top of it.
Chairman Dixon, Vice Chairman Dixon.
Thank you.
I move that we consider the revision for the fiscal year 22 budget.
Very good, thank you. We have a second.
I'll second.
Do we have any other discussion? Okay, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And those opposed? Thank you. Motion passes. Thanks for- Oh, thank you, Mr. Regner.
He's staying for the next one.
And I'm glad you're still here.
I can go last day for a couple more. This next one's easier.
Sorry, yes. So about that resolution, here we are. Before us is a resolution, consideration of a resolution designating MedSurity?
Yeah, mid-surety, something like that.
MedSurity LLC and Matrix Trust as a health reimbursement arrangement trustee.
Currently, the healthcare plan has VIBA and HSA plans where it's employees' money and it's contributed and it's kept in a company. Right now, it's further, for those of you who maybe have heard the word select account. It used to be select account, further bought them out, further got bought out this year by Health Equity or somebody, and they decided that they're not going to do that anymore. So we had to go along with our insurance provider, NIS, and find a different provider to move the funds from further because they will no longer do it. So we really have no choice, we had to move it. They had a couple options. We chose to go with MedSurity. They're a company based, I think it was in Minnetonka, somewhere up in the suburbs. They're a more local company, a little bit smaller, and we thought we could get better service from them and along with the recommendations from NIS. So it's basically, we're going to be moving the accounts, and we need a resolution to do that. You know, they're really not, we had to move it somewhere, so. It'll probably happen in June here, for the first of the year, and it'd be a slight disruption with some of the employees, and we'll get that out there because there'll be a blackout period while the funds are in transit, that they can't access them. But, we'll try and, you know, get as much information as we can out to them in June here, but that's why we need the resolution now, so we can do it. You know, it's one of those things that just happen, so.
Is there a change in fees at all, Tim?
No, that'd be real similar. You know, actually, I think some of the, you know, you get credited for the interest on the account. You know, if you got $1,000 in there, and actually, I think some of the rates are a little bit better where we're going to, but our fees will not change significantly.
How long will the funds be blacked out?
We're hoping only a week to two. I mean, it's, and, you know, they can still use it for, you know, prescriptions and stuff. They just, you will have to wait to pay. So.
Wow. Any initial questions, comments? This is a resolution, but I first need a motion for a resolution that I will accept.
I move the resolution designating MedSurity LLC and Matrix Trust as health reimbursement arrangement trustees.
Second?
Second.
Okay, and with that, I will take a will call vote to my left.
Drew?
Yes?
Before we vote, do I have a conflict of interest on this one?
Because you have funds in there? I wouldn't think so, because you're not getting any extra benefit than anybody else is. I mean, and you're not connected with MedSurity at all.
No, but
Yeah.
I mean,
Right. You're simply, you got more conflict than, I got, me and Bill aren't voting, but us than any other place. I mean, we're all moving because there's no option.
It would be a conflict of interest if you had a financial gain from us going with maturity.
Yeah.
And you don't have one, so.
Yeah.
Not that I know of, unless you,
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe you own their stock or something. I don't know.
10% shareholder.
Yeah, right.
I don't know every suck I own.
Famous last word.
Touche.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
Right.
Good
No, it's a
question,
good
but yeah, I
question.
don't
Yeah.
see
It was a good
you having
Okay.
anything.
Okay, fair. And I will start on my left. Mr. Potts?
Aye.
Lucas Garden, please. Sorry.
Aye.
Tracy?
Like that
Tracy?
name.
Aye.
Do I vote now? I don't remember.
Sure.
Yeah, doesn't matter.
Dixon, aye. Yes. Kate?
Aye.
Bill?
I,
And the motion passes, or the resolution passes. Thank you.
Thanks, Tim.
Thank you.
All right, information items tonight. We want to hear about summer programming in 2022.
Yes, it's going to be a busy summer, and a couple of our staff are coming up to the table here to share more about that. It has been a bit of a challenge to get this all together, but hopefully, we still have a little bit more work to do, but hopefully we'll be set.
After 2 years of virtually no summer programming, it's like, okay, what do we do again? So we're relearning. First off, I want to just share with folks here and folks at home that our summer food program that had been distribution the last 2 years is ending. As Tim mentioned, those free and reduced meal forms, we're moving back to how it had been pre-COVID. And so folks, first of all, for the school year, will need to pay for lunches, and we'll really encourage folks to fill out those free and reduced forms, because that's going to be important both for them as well as for the district. So with that shift, we go back to traditional read and feed. So if you might recall, that's always been housed at the middle school. It's 5 days a week, breakfast and lunch, free for kids 18 and under. Well, this year, the high school site does not, or excuse me, the middle school site does not qualify. So the read and feed will be shifted to North Elementary. So North is going to be a hub for a lot of things this summer. We will still offer breakfast and lunch. It does need to be eaten on site, and it's for children ages 1 to 18. So our hours for breakfast will be 7:30 to 9, and then lunch will be 11 until 12:30. We will have transit rides, those stops around the community again, and we'll get all of that information out to families. The program will run June 1st through August 12th. So just encourage people to watch for information. And again, that's a self-supporting program because we do get reimbursed for those meals. Good program. It'll just be a little bit different, and it will be a shift for people to be thinking about, not just picking up the week full of meals. So that's program number 1. Program number 2 is our extended school year. So we have pre-K through grade 4, grade 8, extended school year for students who are on IEPs and qualify based on regression, etc. So those programs will be held from 3 to 4 weeks throughout the summer. Transportation is included for those students, and that's by invitation. So teachers will be reaching out to students if they would qualify that, or to families, excuse me. And then lastly, for my part of the report, we have our Summer Stars program. And that's our targeted services program for grades kindergarten through 8th grade. We usually run a 4-week, 4-day-a-week, 4 hours a day program, a 4x4x4, if you cut that. This year it's going to be a little bit different because of how July 4th falls.
July 4th?
Tracy, right here, Tracy, right here. So it will be an 18-day program this summer because we will take the 4th and 5th off. So we were either going to go to 14 or to 18, but it seems like it's more appropriate to add that programming. Last year we ended up doing 5 weeks just because we wanted to try to catch kids up. So that too will be housed at North this year for all kindergarten through 4th grade students who are invited. It's based on assessment scores, data, and invitation, and so families can be watching for that. There will be transportation provided as well, and the kids that attend that program will be able to eat breakfast and lunch because the read and feed will be there. So that's the pre-K 4 plus middle school programming for summer that I'm reporting on.
Sounds good. So the Hoffman Learning Center, the Oshawa Learning Academy, does an 18-day summer school program, and that's just part of our commitment with the PRTF. There is a high school extended school year program as well. That's also 3 to 4 weeks in the summer, and that's for students that qualify with their individualized education plan. And then we also have summer credit recovery, and this is for students that are eligible because they have failed one or more high school course for credit. So if they have failed a course, they are eligible for high school credit recovery in the summer. And we have started sending those letters to families. We've started getting registration forms back. We've got 2 sessions in June, and each session is going to be 2 weeks long. And there's a morning class and an afternoon class. So if a student wanted to participate in every opportunity, they could earn up to 2 credits over the summer, which is pretty good. This year we have about 120 students, 120 students eligible. Last year we had about 180 students eligible. So the difference is that there are fewer students failing classes, which is great. We also had a very active night school program this year. We got about 85 students through night school. So that reduced the students that are needing summer school. So that's very positive. At this point we've got 45 kids registered already, and we anticipate that will go up. We'll do another really big push at the end of quarter 4 when kids know whether they passed or failed those final quarter classes. If you see our summer school teachers around town, give them a high five or a hug. I just got a shout out to Peggy Dimmick, Dave Kennedy, Danny Rohrkassi, Robbie Deering, Sarah Corbin, Dustin Sharstrom, and Chris Glidden. It's been tough finding teachers that are willing to do this year. It's been a rough COVID experience, but they are coming back with positive attitude, the best intention for kids in mind. Really, really appreciate them. We do have a world history summer school position open, so if you know someone with a license, encourage them to apply. Partnering with the team for food service for these students, and we do not offer transportation. A lot of our students use the public transportation, and fortunately many of them can drive themselves. So working on those enrollments, and we're excited for a good summer.
It's going to be busy.
Yes, very.
Back at it. Feels good.
Yes, it does.
Yeah. Any questions?
Very good.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Next, for our informational items, the first reading, revisions to the policy manual.
Yes, and there are quite a few. I didn't count them. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 policies coming to you. They're in the 300 and 400s, and there are a few deletions as well, policies that we currently have, but have been pulled into other policies. So they've like combined a few. So this is a first reading. We had a really good meeting going over some of these. They get a little more in depth. It took a little bit more time to go through. A lot of it has to do with employees. And we will be looking for input between now and our next meeting if you see any changes that need to be made to these.
And if you notice, some of these, there are just no current existing policies or the notations and so on. But it's things that we don't have that we're putting in that are recommended. So.
All right.
Can you tell me a little bit about the policy 3.2? Because we have that policy, right? 3.2 site-based decision-making, and we're deleting it, but we're not really picking that up on another policy? Is that?
Right. The language from this policy is from, oh gosh, I want to say it dates back to probably the 80s when it was in the statute that you had a site-based decision-making team and it had very specific people that you needed on it. And now we've kind of moved into a new realm. We use QComp, which does serve as our kind of site leadership teams, and we have building leadership teams. So it's just a different model, and that's covered in other areas. So we don't use the site-based language that we used to use.
So we're still doing that, we're just not having a policy for it?
Yep.
Okay. People ask me silly things sometimes, so I want to make sure I understand.
I appreciate that. It's, kind of a history lesson as we go through policy sometimes.
Indeed. All right, thank you. Last informational item tonight, the school board election filing dates. We have one school board member with a term expiring in 2022, and the Minnesota has timelines and guidance that we must follow for the process of electing a school board member. So I think I'll just read this and get the information out there. So notice is hereby given to the period, or that the period for filing affidavits of candidacy for the office of school board member of Independent School District number 508 shall begin August 2nd, 2022 at 8 a.m. and shall close at 4:30 p.m. on August 16th, 2022. So we have 14 days. The general election will be held this year, Tuesday, November 8th, 2022. At the general election this year, one member will be elected to the school board for a term of 1 year, and that is because we had a school board member leave the board. We invited a board member to join us until the next election cycle, where we're required to put that position back on the ballot for the people's choice. So somewhat of an unusual process for us, but we will do it. Affidavits for candidacy, of candidacy are available from the school district clerk at the district office. The filing fee for this, for the office is $2. The candidate for the office must be eligible voter, must be 21 years of age or more at the time they are appointed office. They must be a resident of the school district 30 days prior to the general election and must have no other affidavit on file for any other office at the same general election. Those are the basics. 2 weeks of filing, $2. We would love to have you join us.
There's another process piece of this. Generally, when someone is elected, they wouldn't take office until January. And in this situation, they would take office immediately upon the board canvassing result.
Oh, that is different, okay. Which would happen at the following meeting. Right,
Yeah,
right, so,
November, yeah.
All right, very good. Thank you. Now, to reports. Principals, oh, the single principal will join us, and yes, okay.
Buckle up, you guys, because, end of the year stuff. Darren's not here, so he has a book in front of me practically with
He knows how to do it.
and since he's not here, we can talk about him again, right? The TEEV is giving my type of building report. It says, early childhood is wrapping up the year with field trips, parent visits, and more.
There we go.
Good job, TEEV.
Well played.
Ditto for self.
Oh, I don't know. Today, the Keepers of the Pipe presented at North and South, and this is a family of Native Americans from Pipestone, and they share primary perspectives about living on the Bad River Reservation. And this was paid for by NAPAC grant funds. The Parent Council is sponsoring an end-of-the-year playground night next Wednesday, and there will be llamas.
Wow.
See how I shortened that one?
Yeah.
There will be llamas. And our kindergarten and first grade students have gone on a few local field trips in the last weeks. They attended a play. Kindergarten classes visited the fire station, police department, and arboretum. And they also had the pleasure of hosting the St. Peter High School FFA students who brought several farm animals for a petting zoo. North Elementary. Last week, they had their transition events for incoming second grade students. They visited North during the day, and then in the evening, they gave their families tours of the building. May 4th was National Walk, Ride, and Roll to School Day. Officer Hughes coordinated this event and brought Sheriff Lang and Chief Groko to help greet students and provide street crossing support. And also, North, South, and the middle school are all looking forward to the Parade of Graduates this Friday. They'll be at North at 9:45. And the graduates of the class of 2022 will don their caps and gowns, if they're here in time, and parade through the halls and say hello to their former teachers and act as something to aspire to for the younger kids. So that's the first time we've done that in St. Peter. Should be pretty fun. And then their last Passion Project afternoon is this Friday. So students sign up for fun events like bike repair clinic, flower planting, and fishing. The middle school, Mr. Graff isn't here tonight because he is supervising the last of the spring concert series for the middle school tonight at the high school. Band performed last week. The middle school is also having a celebration day on Wednesday. It's an all-school assembly and with various homeroom competitions throughout the day. The most interesting piece of all of this, I find, is that because the kids met their fourth quarter Pride goals, both Mr. Graff and Officer Hughes will be sporting new haircuts. Stay tuned.
Wait a minute. Okay. Great. They don't have a lot of hair. Not because they just have like,
Yeah.
Well, the pictures I've seen in the hall are brightly colored mohawks.
Oh.
So I don't know if that's a hint to what is yet to come.
It's on the table.
Yeah.
Darren Doherty might have a look over his shoulder for some nice haircuts from the others. They also had 2 middle school adaptive bowling members at State, Abby Volts and Callie Brovald. Our whole team, 7 through 12, did great. We have a state champ, we have a second place team, and a third place team as well. And if we can get that Coach Volts to come in here, I think that would be a really fun student spotlight at some point too. Really proud of those kids. At the high school this morning, we were surveying the patch of ground where kids then already got to work later in the day planting our orchard. we'll have 30 apple trees. They're really small, so they probably won't produce apples for another like 3 or more years. But that's a good project for them. The FFA soils team made it to nationals. They won state, and so off they went to Oklahoma for a week with the FFA. Wednesday is NHS induction and the Pops concert. Spring play wrapped up. The senior choir members went on a trip to the MOA and to the Chanhassen Dinner Theater last Wednesday, and we spent an hour in the basement trying to avoid tornadoes. So not a lot of people could have probably toured the entire facility there, so that was pretty exciting. Sunday is senior awards afternoon. Tomorrow I go with Mr. Keating and some students who are members of his Mental Warriors Club. He won an award, the club and Sean Keating won an award from someplace called the Synergy and Leadership Exchange. And the award is a Minnesota Promising Practices Award, and they'll be recognized at St. Mary's University tomorrow. We don't know what that comes with. This is the same organization that honored Sean Keating a year ago, and he was awarded quite a nice sum of money at that point. So we're kind of hoping that maybe the Mental Warriors will also do the same.
We can adjust the budget.
That's right. The NAPAC graduation celebration is this Friday afternoon, and that will include a feather ceremony that is taking place at the Kasota Community Center.
That's next Thursday.
Thursday.
Next Thursday.
Yeah. Did I say this Thursday?
He said Friday.
Okay. Keith Hansen he was elected as the Distinguished Service Award recipient. That would normally be announced tomorrow at the recognition banquet, but he will be coaching track. So we did that at the Friday early release and surprised him, played a little Kahoot game about guess the teacher, and it was really pretty touching. So nobody deserved that more, I think, after the last few years, heading up their union, and he was great to work with from an administrative side. Not only does he do all of that, but he coaches 3 sports, he drives the bus, he does pretty much everything in the district, so that was a great choice. And then graduation, next Friday at 8 p.m. I hope to see all of you there. We'll gather beforehand at about 7:30, and then we'll hopefully be graduating 144 kids. The alternative program will also be, the Rock Bend seniors will be participating in most of the high school senior activities, and they will also have their own celebration on site. Those Rock Bend kids are also doing a work skills competition tomorrow at South Central College, and participating in a day of service at McGowan's Family Farm.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. All right,
My turn.
Mr. Gronseth.
Well, as you can hear, there's a lot going on, and that has made the time just fly by. We have 8 days of school left, and those 8 days will remain just as full with all the field trips and activities and celebrations and, getting those loose ends wrapped up before the end of the year. So it's good to be getting back to traditions that haven't been in place since I've been here. So for a lot of things, it's my first time actually seeing the traditions come alive, and it's been great. So as such, we're looking forward to graduation next Friday. As Principal Engeldinger said, it'll be held in the high school gym, and we look forward to seeing everybody there, and we'll meet a little bit earlier. Usually, are we meeting in the conference room again?
Yeah.
So about 7:30 in the conference room, high school, the fishbowl conference room. So I will meet you there. Just another word about food service. You've heard it a few times this evening. For the past 2 years, everyone's received it for free. That is not going to be the case anymore. However, we have continued to sell à la carte items all through this, and we haven't really talked about that. And we haven't sent out notices of past due bills in that area just because it's been the pandemic and we've wanted to kind of recognize that people may be having a hard time. Recently, we did send out those notices. Thank you to those who have said, oh my goodness, and sent a check along to cover those. We still have quite a few overdue balances that we are carrying on the books, and so we're hoping to make a little bit more progress on those accounts. We also welcome donations to cover some of those accounts. Sometimes people give what they call donations to an angel fund, which helps folks to cover those bills. One thing about when we do provide free or reduced price lunch, not everyone qualifies, but some people are really, really close. And that's when those angel fund donations really come in handy to help families out that don't quite qualify, but are close. We will be making sure in the fall that everyone knows that meals are no longer free, and we'll be trying to get as many people as possible to fill out those forms. Even if you think you don't qualify, we're going to encourage people to put those funds in. Sometimes those limits are higher than people think they might be. So it also benefits the school district because it does affect our funding in other areas. It gives families also a break on some of our athletic activities payments as well. So we will just be really pushing that, and you'll probably get tired of us talking about it by the time it rolls around, because we are going to make sure everyone knows. I do want to close the report with a thank you tonight. It's our last school board meeting during this school year, and this has been the third year in a row that the district has been affected by the pandemic. In fact, this year we've had more positive cases than we have the first 2 years combined. It has been a journey, and all of our staff, whether teachers, nurses, paras, bus drivers, everyone, one has been through a lot, but also has really stepped up and helped in so many ways that we didn't even know we needed. When we had 30 people absent one day, and we were all kind of pacing the floor in the morning on, okay, it's too late to call it, but now we know there's going to be this many people out. It got done. Everyone covered for each other. That is the day that we said, okay, tomorrow's a distance learning day, because we had so many new cases coming in. And, well, let's just say it's nice to be able to reach this point where we're feeling some normalcy. I have to knock on wood here, but we are seeing a few more cases than we have in the past couple of months, but we feel like we're in a much better place. And we have all of our staff and so many people in the community to thank for their support through all of this. So I just want to recognize that I wish everyone could get the Distinguished Service Award this year, because they've really shown how much they care about our students and their families and the whole community. So with that, I close my reports.
Very good, thank you. Board members around the table, and I will start with Mr. Kaut.
Well, last Monday I went up to the Capitol as part of the lobbying effort for the requesting that the legislature pay the special ed cross-subsidy funds. And I mentioned before the meeting that the conference committee, the Education Conference Committee, kicked off its first meeting, I believe. It was not impressive. They weren't working towards an agreement at that time. I think now that the parameters are set, they we'll be looking for common ground. But it was interesting. I went to talk with our representative, and she was not in the office, so I ended up having about a half an hour phone call with her, trying to explain what the cross-subsidy was and how it impacts us, and the compensatory aid issue. So we'll see if I made a difference at all when it comes time to vote. But so that was, if you didn't hear about it, the agreement was that there's $1 billion set aside of the surplus for education. And how they come to that figure, who knows? But for instance, I see a separate bill passed today about putting cameras on school buses for the stop signs. Whether that's coming out of public safety or education, I don't know. So, but that's an example. So hopefully there will be some agreement. Unfortunately, the Senate only had money allocated for a literacy program. And I did mention to our rep that St. Peter just initiated a new literacy program, and it would be kind of counterproductive if we had to throw that out and start over. So we'll see what happens.
Thank you. Okay.
Nothing, thank you.
All right. Do we have anything?
Just wanted to let people know, it's kind of school related, but the Land and Grand, there's that memorial, what do they call it, like a roll-in, you know, people bring their plastic cars. I think it's on I was just asking my friend here, it's on Saturday from 10 to 2 at the high school. So if anybody wants to come out to that, it'll be a community event and a time to remember a good young man, so.
Tim?
I don't have anything.
Charlie?
I don't have anything, thank you.
I don't either. All right, that's great. We have some upcoming meetings. We have a study session, Longview Education.
I know, I thought we were going to Longview, I was kind of confused.
Is that our topic? What is?
So Longview Education is the company that is facilitating your discussions around equity. This was the grant that you had received through the South Central Service Co-op.
Okay, thank you. I wasn't immediately familiar with Longview. Monday, that's May 23rd, at 6:30 in the conference room of the middle school. We have graduation again, Friday, May 27th, 8 p.m. We're meeting at 7:30 in the conference room. The business committee meets June 8th at 4 p.m. at the middle school conference room. Our education committee is meeting Tuesday, June 14th at 1 p.m. Same conference room in the middle school. We have our next regular board meeting scheduled for Monday, June 20th at 6:30, right here, same bat time.
And then I believe we have a policy committee meeting on the
Yeah.
24th at 7 a.m.
Policy meeting 24th, 7 a.m.
Yep.
Very good. Thank you for the addendum. And with that,
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
do we have a second?
I'll second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Meeting adjourned.